Art Online Variant Showdown released earlier this week, and it's kinda meh. Welcome to my channel, everyone. It's me, Gamerturk. I am now standing because I have a new stand for my own phone, so more active presentation. Yeah, I actually did not think this through, so my notes are down there on my PC, but we'll figure it out. First time for everything, right? So, Art Online Variant Showdown released earlier this week on Monday, depending on your region, and a lot of people are rightfully angry about the bugs and stuff, but that's not what I'll focus on. This is more of a launch review, you know, bugs and stuff. Most people don't actually know this, but integral factor, memory defrag, they all went through this. We just didn't experience it because the global release was like half a year to an entire year afterwards. Unleashed Blading also had release issues similarly. The issues were to be expected. What disappointed me? It wasn't the issues, it was the content in the game. So first off, gameplay. Nothing too complicated, you know, I kept saying this is the 3D memory defrag since the initial gameplay reveals, and that is pretty much it. Instead of a parry, you just switch and try to time that switch perfectly for that just switch to nullify the entire damage and just push back the enemy. It works pretty much the best against big bosses because, you know, there's just one enemy with very nicely telegraphed attacks. With more enemies, mobs, you know, traditional levels, those stages are a bit too cluttered to be enjoyable in my opinion. What you do is basically you pick your team of 3 preferably advantageous elements, so you just rush through everything and destroy everything. But if 2 or 3 enemies attack you at or around the same time, you just end up getting stun locked regardless of the damage you are taking. You can break out of it with a switch, but if you cannot chain those just switches perfectly, or if there are just way too many enemies, you are gonna get stun locked quite often, and it's a slog to get out of that stun lock. But yeah, the gameplay, it is gameplay, nothing, you know, out of the ordinary, nothing we would have expected. With the way the game is structured in regards to its story, I'm gonna get to the story in a bit, it just overstays its welcome a bit. I felt exactly the same when I was playing Memory Defrag, so I can still see a whole lot of people, you know, getting into that thing. Just keep grinding over and over, especially with the skip tickets helping a lot, at least early in the game at the moment. But yeah, there's nothing particularly exciting about it. And it surely doesn't help that the game itself does not have a lot of content at the moment. There are like 3-4 different settings right now. There's the GGO stage that kind of stands out to me. There's the ALO stage with the Yuki's tree in the background and all that kind of stuff. There's the cave stage, and there is the Aincrad boss stage. And the enemies, they just keep repeating over and over, and I think it's a bit too much when you have too little content in the game right from the get-go. There's currently the Gleam Eyes limited time event, which it's going through its own, you know, set of bugs at the moment. We will see what comes out of it with the earlier maintenance, emergency maintenance that they had today, fixing some bugs. It kind of broke the event for Android users. But again, I'm not gonna talk about the bugs. This is a launch review about the game itself. What's good with the limited time event is that it has its own story. I appreciate that a lot. What I don't appreciate is that the story itself, especially the second half of it, is pretty damn integral to the story of the game. You know, it's the backstory for Layla as well as the quote-unquote poo that we have in the game. And if it's a limited time event, that's gonna disappear, and I think that should stay as a story thing. That's a great segue into story, actually. The story of the game, we literally have no content. That's the thing I do not understand with this game. It literally has no content, barely any content available on launch, and I think that is currently what's, I don't want to say killing it. It is doing quite well. Despite all the technical issues that it's suffering, expected technical issues that it's suffering, but without knowing their pace of content implementation, that is going to be tricky. Because my point of reference is something like Unleashed Blading or Integral Factor. Integral Factor released in Japan, if I remember correctly, with 4 or 5 entire floors on launch. The content that came after was a bit slow, but especially with the global launch for us, we had a lot of content to go through on launch. Even Japan, you know, 4 or 5 floors, that's like 10 hours of story gameplay content. With Unleashed Blading, we had a huge portion of the Human Realm arc available to us. That was particularly good at the time because anime had butchered the Human Empire arc so much. But I digress. We also had limited time events with their own stories in Unleashed Blading. Right now, the first week, well, the first 5 days of Art Online Variant Showdown, we literally have a single chapter of story that you can go by in 20 minutes. That is not good. And I was a closed beta tester. I participated in the closed beta thanks to an old friend. And what happened there is that we had already access to the 4 parts of that first entire chapter. And with the full release, it's just 6 parts total. Like, since the beta, since almost half a year ago, did we really just get 2 little parts of the first chapter? I don't think that is acceptable, and I don't think it is going to be particularly good if they don't bring that main story quickly enough into the game. The first chapter, it barely functions as a prologue. I said this back in my beta impressions during that live stream as well. There was barely anything to get you interested in the story, barely anything to have a story foundation in the first place. It acted like the prologue, but we don't know anything, we don't know any of the characters, it's just some stuff randomly chucked in, and it's just, where is this going? Like, there's no huge pull on the gameplay side of things, there is zero pull on the story side of things. It is a positive that event stories also come with, you know, proper stories, not throwaway stories, but that also becomes a double-edged sword. There are a lot of gallery images. That is something I enjoy, and the game has a proper gallery as well if you check the options, so that's a massive positive, but that's not content, that is quality of life. The game on launch is lacking content significantly. I don't think, even a mobile game, I don't think you should be launching with only a single 20-minute chapter of your main story. Like, how? But we'll see how things shape up. Quite a lot of emergency maintenance is going on as expected from such a release. It's been quite common with SAO game releases. I haven't played other smartphone games all that much, especially on launch, but it is generally like this. Server errors, game errors, people are saying, you know, a lot of bugs have carried over from the beta. At that point, they are right, a lot of things have carried over from the beta and seem to be just now getting fixed. I said this previously, I have no idea what exactly happened since the beta that we had almost half a year ago. Sure, that is an over-exaggeration. Surely they had stuff fixed in the background that we have never recognized, but in terms of content and in terms of very glaring bugs that people have reported since the beta, it feels like not enough. It feels like the launch of Variant Showdown goes down as a not enough. So far I am not at all impressed, nowhere near impressed, and we'll see what the future holds for the game. It's still quite a strong launch looking at the financials of the game in Japan. Alright, the gacha, I completely forgot about sharing any opinions on that because it's a gacha, what do you expect? The gacha is fine. I think the game is going for a more collection of characters rather than weekly power creep. Of course, the time will show, but for now it seems like it's going for a collection type similar to Fate Grand Order. The only thing I would say is, you know, maybe have a pity mechanic that at a certain point guarantees us a proper SSR that's featured in the banner. That's literally all I think. That's it. I think it's fine. You know, in just 3 days, well, almost 4 now at the time I'm speaking, and it is already doing better than some of the better months of Unleashed Blading this year, and I currently cannot even recommend you the game because I don't know what's gonna come after. If only they had like 3-4 chapters of the main story, then we would have something tangible to hold on to, but at this moment I don't know what's happening. I cannot exactly recommend it. We'll see where it goes. It's kind of unfortunate that the first launch review I'm doing for such a thing has to go this way, but what can I do? I hope you enjoy this one. It's a bit of a letdown, and we'll see where the game goes from here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, stay cool.